This baklava cheesecake combines two delicious desserts into one.
Let's see what's cooking. It's time for Yo-Yo Max 12.
Hello everyone! Starting off with a large mixing bowl and two 8-ounce packages of happy cream cheese at room temperature. Add in 1 cup of white granulated sugar, 2 teaspoons of vanilla extract, half a teaspoon of salt, and you're going to blend that together until you get a nice creamy mixture. This is so much easier when your cream cheese is at room temperature. If it's not at room temperature, you can even throw it in the microwave to warm it up a little bit. Then you'll add in the zest of 1 lemon, which is about a tablespoon's worth of zest, 2 teaspoons of lemon juice, and 1/2 cup of sour cream. Then blend that together until it's nicely smooth, and don't forget to stop the machine to scrape down the sides of the bowl if you'd like. Then add in 2 large eggs, and you're going to beat those in until it is just combined. Once that's combined, set that aside, and we're going to move on to the next part of the recipe. In a medium-sized bowl, add 1 cup of finely chopped pecans, 1 cup of finely chopped pistachios, and 1/4 cup of brown sugar, as well as a teaspoon of cinnamon. Then I used a fork. You're just going to blend that together. I just made sure there were no big chunks of brown sugar that were left in there. Just combine that and then set that aside. This is a 9-inch springform pan that I've lightly greased with cooking spray, and I'm putting a circle of parchment in the bottom. You'll need some phyllo pastry. Phyllo pastry is sold in the freezer section at my grocery store. It comes in these rolls and they're kind of doubled over, and this is what they look like. You'll need 20 sheets. I only had 16 because that's the package size that it came in. I wasn't going to buy 2 packages and have some left over, so I only used 16, but the original recipe calls for 20. Now you're going to take a sheet of phyllo pastry, put it in the bottom of the pan, push it down. It's going to drape over the sides, but that's okay if you want that. Then you'll take some melted butter and brush a layer of butter on top of the sheet of phyllo pastry. I melted about 1.25 cups of butter. I use salted butter for this recipe. The original recipe calls for 1 cup, but I found I need a little bit more, so it's about 1.25 cups or so. So brush the butter on, be generous with the butter, and then add your next sheet of phyllo pastry on top, press it down, and then butter it again. You're going to do this 10 times. There'll be 10 layers of phyllo pastry on the bottom, and each of the sheets will be buttered. Once you have the 10 sheets down, then you're going to place half of that nut mixture in the bottom. Spread it around, and then top it with more sheets of phyllo pastry. Now you can see that my phyllo is starting to tear a little bit here. When it dries out, it gets very fragile, so make sure that you keep your sheets of phyllo pastry that you're not using covered with a damp paper towel or a damp cloth, just so that it doesn't start to tear and dry out. Now you're going to add 5 more layers of buttered phyllo pastry layers, and then you're going to add the second half of the nut mixture, and then 5 more layers of buttered phyllo pastry on top of that. So you have 10 on the bottom, then you have nuts, you have 5 layers, and then some nuts, and then 5 more layers of buttered phyllo. Now you're going to think that your cheesecake mixture is not going to fit because it looks really full, but it's going to fit. Because it's kind of a small cheesecake recipe, because there's only 2 packages of cream cheese, it'll fit, trust me. Pour your cheesecake mixture in there, spread it out nicely, and it fit perfectly. Then you're going to take some more melted butter, and I just went around and just made sure that the overhang parts of the phyllo had some butter on it. And then you're going to bring it up and you're going to fold it over top of the cheesecake. You don't want to fold it completely over. You want to fold it mostly over, and you want to leave just a circle in the middle that you can see, so you can see the cheesecake, so that way you'll be able to tell if it's done or not. So leave a little circle in the center. It kind of looks like a flower. And I thought there was way too much overhang, so I gave my cheesecake a little haircut before I put it in the oven. But he actually probably didn't have to do this. Then I had some butter left in the bottom of the dish I'd used to melt it in, so I just brushed some additional butter on top. Now when you put this in the oven at 325 for about 60 to 70 minutes, there's a good chance some of that butter is going to drip out the bottom of your springform pan and make a mess of your oven. So put it on a cookie sheet. In my case, I have this large silicone cake pan, so I just set my entire springform pan inside of it and put that in the oven, and it worked beautifully. It caught all the drips and kept my oven nice and clean. While that's baking, we're going to make the honey syrup that is going to go on top of this. That's a half a cup of sugar, a quarter cup of water, a quarter cup of honey. Now, my honey had started to crystallize a little bit, so that's why it looks a little on the chunky side, but it was fine. You're going to bring this to a simmer, and you're going to cook it for about 7-8 minutes until it thickens up a little bit. You want it thick, but still pourable. There is the cheesecake out of the oven. You're going to bake it until that center is just a little bit jiggly. It's going to feel like it's not set, that it's quite jiggly in the center. And while that cheesecake is still hot, you'll take your syrup that you made and pour it on top of the cheesecake. Concentrate most of the syrup on the edges on the phyllo pastry sheets. You can put a little in the center, but you want it mostly on the edges. Then let this cool to room temperature, and then you're going to refrigerate it for several hours. I left mine in the fridge overnight, and of course you're going to serve it chilled and keep it chilled. Here is the completed cheesecake. This was actually dessert for Christmas dinner this year. The cheesecake came out of the pan very, very nicely. It slices up really well, very easy to slice. The bottom part's a little bit on the tough side because of the layers of phyllo, but certainly well worth it. And it is incredibly delicious. It is a show-stopping dessert, and I can tell you right now that this is in the top 5 best cheesecakes that I've ever had in my life. And I will be making this one again. It's fantastic. You got creamy cheesecake, crunchy, honey-coated, crispy layers on the outside. Just an amazing dessert, and I hope you give it a try. This recipe is going on my cheesecake playlist. If you want to see the rest of them, please check this out, and thank you so much for watching. And here's a little blooper for you. Butter in between each layer. So you're going to do this 10 times.
10 minutes, starting now.
Siri, stop timer.
It's cancelled.